for better or worse, the district that interests me always is District 27, the Lincoln schools. And now this is not new figures, and I'm sure that they're probably more dire by now, but they had to lay off, they looked to lay off 15 people. Their revenue was going to be $1,500,000 short. You know, we're talking, I mean, I don't even make that in a year. I know that surprises you, Bill.
Shocking.
But I don't. And, you know, that's almost impossible to make up.
Well, it is.
And that's just one district.
That's
just
one of
district,
13,
you know,
yes.
And the general state aid payments have continued to be paid, to have been paid through the state, but what is not happening now are the special ed reimbursement, and special ed is tremendously expensive, as you might guess.
Yes, of course.
And the transportation reimbursement. And many of our districts provide transportation to students and get a measure of that money reimbursed to them every year, and that's part of the money that's not been paid. And so at the point that that chart was put together, which was probably end of March, I don't think that things were,
as of the end, yeah.
Things weren't quite as serious as they are now. For example,
think of that now.
There are a couple of districts that don't really...
Let's just recap what she said. Things are not quite as serious then as they are now. That's the end of March, and here we are, second day of June.
Yeah. And,
3 months.
And the problem is, you know, that
2 months.
Programs continue to operate, mandates still have to be met, and the funding is not being provided for those things. And you can only operate on reserves for so long. Our regional safe school, Salt Creek Academy, we have dipped into reserves. I think we've gotten 2 payments all year. We did get some of the recovery money through general state aid in March and April, and that had to go towards salaries, but you know, you can only, I think that you said something earlier about robbing Peter to pay Paul, and at some point in time Peter runs out of money, and
that's right.
And that's kind of the situation that a lot of people are approaching or will be approaching before too long.
Extracting economics from the picture, which you of course can't realistically do, but money aside, what would be the one issue that you face that you think is really important in education in your office, Mrs. Anderson? Oh, my
goodness. I don't think I could narrow it down to one.
I bet that's right.
We have a list of responsibilities that are in law or in the Illinois Administrative Code, and single-spaced on a sheet of paper, they would take that whole sheet of paper and then some, and those are just, you know, things that are just kind of common every day or on a regular basis kinds of thing. I don't know that I could narrow it down to one.
Well, I imagine that's exactly right. It's so complex. Curricula. Who establishes a curricula for...
The school board.
The school,
of each individual district.
Of each individual district.
There are state standards, and then you align your curriculum to the state standards, but there's always some give and take in there by the local board to establish additional things, or the number of hours in the day and the number of hours that you might spend on a particular course, like a 56-minute period, for example, instead of a 48-minute period, that kind of thing. Those are local decisions.
Just thinking, Tony Restek will soon be our guest here in a moment. When she and I served with District 27, I don't recall that was a major factor with our District 27 board. It may be the fact that we had a West partner in whom we had so much respect and his judgment. So curricula didn't seem to be an important
Curriculum wasn't, I mean, curriculum has always been important, but it's extremely important now because so much of what we determine for our schools is driven by the data that's created from testing. And the curriculum is much, much more, it's not just being a financial manager anymore. A superintendent must be much, much more than that, and they must be experts in curriculum and instruction.
What is the, you used the term mandate a little bit ago, and that is such a very big word. What is the number that's dictated for a class? How many is the ideal class, or what's the maximum that a teacher can have?
Oh, meaning class size?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's, again, something that's often determined locally. Special ed has rules and regulations that, depending on the type of class, if you exceed a certain amount of students, then you have an aide.
Yes.
But otherwise, there are just guidelines for example, kindergarten, primary, and then there are other guidelines for, say, junior high level and high school level, and we don't want to have necessarily 50 children in a classroom, but
we're going to have more, aren't we?
We're going to have more, yes.
Let's face it, I'm 70 years old. It's been how long since I was in 6th grade?
Just a doggone kid.
A bit. But I do remember the numbers from 6th grade because they all pertain to 6. There were 6 Judys in my room, and there were 36 kids. And we learned, nobody got out of there without having learned quite a bit. Of course, the student didn't reign supreme then either. The teachers did. And maybe that made a difference. I don't know. But we used to have big classes. Bill, maybe you can remember any numbers. Can you remember any numbers? 36 is twice what a lot of teachers have right now. Yeah, really. Breakfast is kind of vague to me.
Did I eat today? Did I eat today?
But I do remember 6th grade. And do you think we're headed in that direction, that we're going to have 36 kids in a room again?
I don't know.
Not that it was the end of the world, obviously.
No, and I guess it's possible. I don't know that it will happen, at least in a short period of time. There are optimal levels for being able to spend some time with each student. And if you have 36 kids in the class, it can be done, but you don't get a whole lot else done.
Not individual attention. You
Right.
had to scurry
Right.
to keep up with the rest.
And,
it
and
was
most
your
of our
job.
teachers do try to give individual attention with their students every day, particularly with the response to intervention program that's being used right now, and basically that's a 3-tier program where they try to continue to add interventions to students who need it, and hopefully get to the place that they have met the students' needs and not have to have them staffed into special education. So,
Mrs. Anderson, we want to appreciate very much your being with us today. As you well know, education is pretty near and dear to Judith and myself, and we're intensely interested in the process, and we take our hat off to the teachers at all levels. It's a very, very difficult time for these teachers today and the administrators. We appreciate very much, again, the presence of Jean Anderson, one of our own locals here, who's doing a great job in the field of education as superintendent, the regional superintendent of schools for a 3-county area. We're going to close with this little quote, and I would simply say that moderation in the pursuit of excellence is no virtue. Thank you for Viewpoint.